chairs and me were enemies. This one will take me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man.
And congratulations on the fantastic film.
Oh, thank you.
And also congratulations on the Oscar nomination.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a fun morning. Yeah.
So now the movie's out in the world, but I thought we could start back from the inception of the project. And obviously Pinocchio is a story that's existed for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So for both of you, what was your first exposure to the story of Pinocchio?
You start.
I came to Pinocchio sort of late in life because my upbringing, we weren't exposed to a lot of anything.
He was in a cult.
lived in a hole.
He was in a cult.
So I think the first time I became aware of Pinocchio was actually Astro Boy, which is a version of that. So it was Guillermo who really got me excited about Pinocchio when I heard what he wanted to do with it.
What was your first exposure?
My mom and I used to go to the movies, and it was the second or third movie she took me to, and I was absolutely horrified but delighted because it was so scary, and I thought this movie really understands what childhood feels like. And I kept it in my mind. My mom and I talked about it. I wanted to do it again in Super 8 with clay figures and make Pinocchio not obey and be loved exactly as he was. Because that's a Walt Disney Company. Won the right back now. And I wanted to do something different with it. All through my teens and my 20s, I started doing stop motion professionally. And I had a company that did makeup effects, stop motion, optical, exactly. That's my partner. And then, I wanted to do something different with it. And in 2001, between Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth, in between that, I thought we could start doing this Pinocchio in some manner. And it was me? I think they're all gone.
Is mine? No, mine's good. Maybe you're done talking.
Yeah. I think I'm done. And do you have that? All right. So that was it. I saw the drawing by Grace Grimley that became Pinocchio, very, very close to this design, and I thought immediately everything would fit like that, and I wanted to make a movie not about a boy learning to be a real boy, but a father learning to be a real father, which is a lot more urgent and real, because that always rubbed me the wrong way, even in the original. And then we read the book, we talked about it, we analyzed it, and we started to be rejected in 2008 or 9. Every studio passed on the movie twice. And we got Netflix that Sarando said yes, and here we are. These are, by the way, the real puppets from the film. So they actually move, and you can pose them. One, Pinocchio's replacement, and this is mechanical head.
That's beautiful.
Yes, they are. They're more expensive than a car.
And so, talking of taking the book apart and so adapting it, what was the adaptation process like? Because there are themes and it goes darker perhaps than people might be used to. So what was the writing process like with your co-writer?
Well, part of it was, I knew I didn't want to make a kids movie. When they said, is it a movie for kids? I said, no, but kids can watch it. But the difference is, when people think about animation, they think animation is a genre for kids, and it isn't. It's a medium for art and cinema. And a lot of people, when they talk about kids' movies, they're talking about babysitter movies, nannies. They plop the kid 2 hours in front of the TV and they don't have to talk to them. And that's not, we wanted to make a movie that could stand next to Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth and talk to each other. And, people have the wrong idea about childhood. It's a pretty time. I was 77 when I was 7. I was the oldest little man in the world, and I'm younger now that I'm older. because I think in the middle the dial changes. The age, I say between the ages of 16 and 26, you feel you are a has-been that never achieved anything, and you want to give up real bad. And when I was 7 to 16, I thought everything was over. I was, and I think is really young people need instruments to construct the world through fables. And that includes the negative parts, because we know, as a kid, you know the world is. It's not like you don't know, but nobody is telling you what it consists of, what is broken. You know all the adults are lying, you know everything they say is, but you don't know how to assemble an answer, you know? And I think this was the Pinocchio is, you have a kindly Geppetto saying, you don't lie, and he lives in the middle of a complete lie in society, which is fascism. And these were the things that made it very hard to finance. So when we started to put it together, we were preserving those themes, and we were not looking back at any other movie or any other thing, or we had already read the book and we served this version of the film.
Right, yeah, I was going to ask, because it's been adapted so many times before.
65 by the count of somebody, yeah.
So, and that didn't have any bearing on...
No. No, why do you want to see I mean, when you're designing a robot, the last thing you want to see is designs from other robots. When you're designing a monster, you don't want to see monsters. You want to obey your own drum. So when you're adapting Pinocchio, you actually actively avoid looking at other Pinocchios. You know, and I think we didn't want to define ourselves by opposition, so we never said, oh, we cannot do this because it was done with Disney. The Disney Pinocchio is beautiful, but it's a very different beast.
And so you've mentioned the gestation of the project has been happening for a long time.
Yeah, you came in on 2009, right?
Yeah, around 2009. Yeah.
And at what point did
He brought me in because when he said, I'm doing Pinocchio, I said, who? So.
No, we met there. Mark, for those of you that don't know, his trajectory is phenomenal. He's one of the most important figures in animation. He's a hero of mine. I wanted to work with him very much. He created clay animation right at the birth of that. He's a hero for everybody that loves stop motion, and a really good director on his own right. So as a groupie, I decided to pay for the coffee every time we met.
I agree with everything he said.
And so there's 2 directors on this movie. And so how did this...
That we know of.
How did this marriage work for the 2 of you?
Well, fortunately, we found out that we shared sensibilities. And early on, I realized also that Guillermo has this incredible affection for the absurd in his sense of humor. So on that level, we connected very quickly. But you know, going into these sort of things, you don't know for sure. But you know, as it turned out, we were very compatible with one another and worked extremely closely, you know, through the whole process, you know, in every phase.
One thing that jumps out is how tactile and designed it is.
Yeah.
So would you be able to talk about the design process?
Yeah, sure. You want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about stop motion. It's real things, real puppets, real sets, real light. It's very analogous to live action. We're doing all of the things that you do in live action, basically, except we're doing them one frame at a time. But you have to light real sets. And for us, the animators were real priority. I know I'm going off of design here for a moment, but we really wanted to make sure that they had the best opportunity to give the best performances that they possibly could. So we went out and we got the best voice cast that we could, many of them from here, you know. And so you lay that groundwork, and then you get the best people, and I got everybody that I ever wanted to work with, and Guillermo, and you give them trust. You say, okay, this is what we want from these performances, but if you discover something in the course of actually animating this thing, we're open to you exploring that. And we put a lot of things in place to help the animators have that kind of freedom. One of the things was doing mechanical faces, not on Pinocchio, but on almost all the other puppets, because it gives the animator just such incredible control over the puppet. You know, you're moving, it's like a watchwork inside this head. There's little paddles, and you're able to really manipulate things in minutia.
You know the difference between printed faces and mechanical? Here's the difference. Can you hold it? The printed face is printed. You make different faces for the puppet to change expression. God damn you, Pinocchio.
It's hard, animation.
It's hard. Then the magnets. There we go. See? Each of these faces, and there are thousands and thousands of these, have vowels, consonants, sad, happy mouths, and then the eyes, which I will not pop. They pop out, and then you put it back again. Putting it back is a little easier, I think. There, and then the nose is the register, you know? You put it back. If you do this 24 times, you get 1 second of animation. So 24 different faces will give 1 second of dialogue. God damn you, Pinocchio.
That's why we shot for 1,000
Yes,
days.
for 1,000 days. But look, and the body, I'll show you this. The body is mechanical. So we printed the entire body in metal, but all the structure is already there, all the joints. I would love for you to do a mosh pit with this and pass it around. But in the case of Geppetto, all the mechanics are inside the face. So there's a little robot that you move. If you want him to be angry, you can make him angry, you know? So all the
You don't want to make them angry.
all the expressions are there. There are little paddles that you can make the O, the U, the P, the T, consonants and vowels, and that gives the animator full control. Instead of having thousands of faces, they can actually make the faces as they animate. Now, stop motion, so you can imagine, is like a little bedroom in a toy, the most beautiful doll's house in the world. Made, everything is made. You cannot buy a chair because the scale is very peculiar. The scale has to grow from Pinocchio up. So everything is designed and handmade, and it's hand carved, hand molded, hand painted, and it exists. Part of the reason I wanted to make it stop motion is because I get to keep all that and I have it at my house. But it really is as sacred as somebody playing with toys. And so you can imagine for a moment, every 24 movements give you a second, which means that an animator doing a complex scene on a week gives you an average of 1 to 3 seconds a week. 1 to 3 seconds a week. And we have 30 Pinocchios, 20 Geppettos. You saw the movie, we have 2 entire churches. We have multiples of the sets, and we have people shooting in 60 little sets that are covered by curtains. That's what is done.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, the animator's world is small in a whole bunch of ways.
And stinky.
And stinky. There's one scene in here, in the bedroom where Geppetto is putting Carlo to bed, and then he's putting Pinocchio to bed. That was all done by one animator over the course of 2 years. He spent 2 years in that little bedroom on just that set with those characters. And the beauty of that is that he now owns that scene. He can look at that and go, I did that. I did all of that. And for us, the beauty is that that animator really gets to know those characters and exactly what that scene is about and can go so deep into it that if they can survive 2 years, you know, we get something pretty wonderful.
Now, in terms of design, if you're curious, you have to design everything. When you're telling a movie, you're telling it with audiovisual terms. The same way that you learn in writing that there are adjectives, tall, short, dark, light. All those adjectives, you can only qualify them on film with camera, light, sound, color, and composition. So you have to tell the story through shapes and colors and so on that you shape. So for example, everything that has to do with Carlo is connected to blue. The blue scarf and his blue book carry on with the blue of the cricket, the blue of the other world, the blue of the life-giving fairy, the blue of death, and even the blue of the fish, which I could explain why, but it's a test for Pinocchio.
Even the balloon.
And even the balloon that tells Geppetto where to go is Carlo, is blue. Everything to do with the fascist and real physical death is black and red. Every time, the first red that appears is the painting on the shoe, then the painting of the blood of Christ, and then you take it from there, the armband on the fascist, blah, blah, blah. So as a designers and storytellers, you should mind what you say with each color. And you can classify it and elaborate it. The shapes of the town, we researched the town and designed it according to reality. So that town has romantic ruins on top of 17th century construction, 18th century woodwork, blah, blah, blah. Everything that you saw, everything is fabricated. There's not an accident in animation. Nothing exists. If you want the wind to move the hair of Geppetto, the hair has been rigged with wires so that he can react to wind. The fabric, when they turn and the fabric does the normal flap, that fabric has a wire. So there are no accidents. When he fights the balloon, everything has been designed. The balloon has a little crane that holds it, and you don't say, oh, bat the balloon. You have to plan it in advance and create a mistake that looks real and living and accidental. So it's an exercise of pre-planning that is enormous.
And so it gives a good idea of the level of collaboration that there was on this project. So you said 1,000 days of shooting. How many were there? 65 units, I read?
We got to about 65 at the peak. We had 40 animators animating at once. You want to have more units, ideally, than you have animators, because when an animator finishes a shot, you want to be able to move them right onto the next one as efficiently as possible. And that means you have to be sort of prepared out in front of them with another set.
How many of you have done or know stop motion? Holy crap. I like you guys. I like it. And how many of you actually shot stop motion? Oh my God, I should shut up. All right, well, if you have any particular questions, we should answer them. And I would like to pass the gobblets, can we? Can someone, yes, let's pass them around so they can play with them. I mean, please.
Be very careful.
Be very careful. But when you move them, hold the joint, move it delicately, but play with them because it's so beautiful. They are so beautiful. And a stop motion, and you know this because you do it, stop motion is the most direct contact in animation between the animator and the model. In 2D, you have people that do the in-between movement. In computer, you have a mouse on the screen. You don't touch things. Here is somebody behind a little curtain eating Cheetos and animating a little toy.
One collaboration I'd like to ask you about is with the composer, Alexandre Desplat, who you worked with before in Shape of Water.
And Rise of the Guardians, and Troll Hunters, Tales of Arcadia. This is our fourth collaboration. Yeah.
And so he's obviously an exceptional composer. So obviously the music is an integral part of the film experience, generally speaking, but with this movie that has musical songs,
Yeah.
in the middle. How? At what point did he come into the picture?
Well, for now that I know you guys know stop motion and do it, everything that dictates the ethos of a movie, the way the movie should be done, has to be of a piece. And we wanted to animate ordinary gestures to make it extraordinary, to see puppets do things that you normally don't see. Most animation is too animated, too hectic, and it loses the reality and the innocence of real life. Families behave like sitcom families in animated movies with one-liners and little poses with a raised eyebrow that become emojis. The same with music. Music tends to sound the same in all animated movies. Camera moves too much, music is too active, and we don't recognize our families or ourselves in those films. Alexandre had to work with innocence, not purity, innocence. Like he had to find a figure that represented the soul of Pinocchio and Carlo, and that was the central figure. Other figure came out of the lullaby, my son, you know. But he also said, let's make the music only with wooden instruments, because Pinocchio is made of wood. And we did that, except for the French horns, which the French have decided that they should be classified as wood. So you don't argue with the French. So we said, okay, but that was, the key was that simplicity of a lullaby and the possibility of then using the themes of the songs in the score. So you don't have a score that goes one way and the songs all of a sudden come out of nowhere, you know? So that was the way we molded it.
Okay, so he came on probably very early in the process.
Oh, well, you have to record the songs before you storyboard finally, do the animatic, and before you do the animation.
And what I like about Alexandre is he writes incredibly complex music that sounds very simple. It's very digestible. But he's also, you know, if you think of a movie as like a relay race, he sort of runs the anchor leg in many ways. He brings the movie across the finish line emotionally with his music so beautifully.
Also, just in terms of, you know, we're training young filmmakers here, and so we want to get a sense of the practicalities of life on set. And so because there were so many people involved and so much collaboration, how do you get through a bad working day?
In all the time I worked on this film, there was never a day where I got up in the morning and thought, oh, I don't want to go to work. I always look forward to go to work. I would say at the end of the day, I was ready to go home because it is a difficult process. It's particularly difficult for animation, and some of you having done some animation would know this. The animator really pours themselves into that puppet. It's exhausting, and so we tried to really hold our days to like 8-hour days for the animators because we wanted them to know that they could do that, and we weren't going to ask them to go on and on, because when you're done, after 8 hours of animating, if you're a really good animator, you're spent.
I think that if you do what you like, your biggest obstacle, if your families are anything like mine, is your family. You know, because my father used to introduce me, and this is my son that makes movies. You know, like he's an unemployed bum, but you know, he's a little crazy. But in reality, what happens is in film, you substitute that family for a family that works. In a film set, everybody does what they meant to be doing, and they fulfill it, and there is almost like a carnival, a really great carnival feel in a great movie set. And people say animators have to have patience. They don't, because they're doing exactly what they love. They have to have patience with the real world, not with the animation community. And we come from a movie that shot for about 1,000 days, and everybody, including us, wanted to keep going. We really didn't want it to stop. We loved the routine of talking to each other, watching each other create art. And when people say, what do we do? What do we learn in school? I think you learn from each other. what they teach you is important, but to make alliances with each other is far more important. Like the friendships you make here, if you carry them into the working world, that's the best gift you can get. The rest is 50-50, but the friendships are they never go away.
You know, as a follow-up question, sort of more generally filmmaking related and to your filmmaking life and creative life, how do you keep your spark going? Sometimes, are there any times that you're just spent and you need to fill up the well? And how do you do that?
I have never had a problem with that, ever. I feel so blessed to be able to do this for a living. If you can, as Guillermo said, if you can do something that you love, you're not going to work. It's a joy, and it's a blessing. So
it's hard as hell to make a movie. It's almost impossible. The natural state of a movie is to not get made. So we have years of unemployment and dreaming, and I've been at it for 30 years. I have written or co-written more than 33 screenplays, and I made 12 movies. That means that for about 14 to 15 years, I was entirely unemployed and completely desperate. That is part of filmmaking. Filmmaking is you survive the waiting, you don't survive the working. The working should be a joy, but the waiting is absolutely putrid because the grass looks greener on the other side. You think, like, I guarantee you, my career has been a series of accidents that I have survived. I'm not being modest or whimsy. 1991, I make my first movie. I don't make my next movie until 1997, right? And 1997, I make my second movie with the Weinstein brothers. And I barely make it. I go, whew. 1998, my father gets kidnapped. I gotta move from my country to another country. I don't make a movie until 2001. Devil's Backbone in Spain because no one would hire me in Hollywood. And 2001, Wesley Snipes wants to do Blade 2. It's not like I had a pipe and I was in a chess lounge planning my career. And next, I shall have my father kidnapped for effect, And you have to understand this because there is a moment in which your biography and your filmography become one. Film will absorb your life if you really, really do it entirely. And that's why you have to have friends, be a couple, fall in love with somebody that loves film as much as you do. Because it's impossible to explain our profession to someone that doesn't. We are just a bunch of weirdos that do a really weird thing for a living if we're blessed. And you never ever stop waiting, and you never ever stop being turned down. It's horrible, but I'm 58, I've done 12 movies, I won this, I won that, I've done that. 4 weeks ago, they turned down one of my projects. 6 weeks before, they turned down another. So it's important that I say this because it never ends. It's always a struggle, but it is the best profession in the world. It's the greatest, and I think to tell stories with sound and images, when you do it, how many of you were elated when you saw your first thing projected? If you have, raise your hand if you loved it. Damn it, you're gonna make it, But
how many of you were appalled by the first one?
Yes. There you go. You will also make it.
We've got a few questions from students that they sent in advance.
Do you mind when you read it if the student gets up?
Yeah, of course.
So we can.
They're all in the second row.
All right.
So I'll start with Thea. This film has strong biblical and spiritual references throughout. What was the inspiration behind this?
All right. Well, I'm the Catholic one. I'm a lapsed Catholic, but I was raised very Catholic. My aunt, who was incredibly crazy Catholic. My great aunt, I called my grandmother. And I also shared that with Carlo Collodi, who wrote Pinocchio. He was he was studying to be a priest. He didn't become a priest because it's hard to be a priest in Italy, I guess. But he had all that. Pinocchio being made of wood with nails is a reference to Christ. He resurrects several times to save those that he loves. And that's another one. Even the figure in the book of Pinocchio inside of the fish is a reference to the biblical figure of Jonah and the whale. And the tribulations he goes through is very much like the book of Job. There is a lot of what is called Christian hermetism in the writing of Pinocchio that Collodi imbued the story with. And I really thought it was very important to make the movie about stories of fathers and sons. And one of the worst stories of fathers and sons is Jesus and his dad. You know, he says, son, I'm going to send you to earth. Oh, dad, gee, thank you. And then in 33 years, there'll be something, and you may be surprised. Really, Dad? I have no doubt. You won't see it coming. Oh, Dad, gee, you're always thinking of me. But also the fascist image and the sons, the idea of the fascist figures are always a daddy obsession, you know, and they present this sort of all-powerful, all-knowing Superman as the ideal guide to the country and all that. So to me, disobedience is a key for the soul. Obedience is never a virtue. Never, ever, ever is a virtue to obey. To disobey with conscience is. And I thought he had to have the Catholic Church show business and the fascism structure to disobey Pinocchio. He needed to be tempted and think about it and all that. So that's in the film all around. And in all my films, for some reason, Alfonso Cuarón makes fun of me. He says, "You're always saying everything is better after death." But you know what? I'm a lapsed Catholic, but I'm a Catholic nevertheless. So there it is.
Thank you.
Why do you think people are so quick
Who
to...
is it?
Sorry, it's Omikia. Why do you think people are so quick to reject animation as a serious genre? And do you think you could change their negative attitudes?
Well, I think in the Western world in particular, that's the case. And it's because of the history of it. It's been something that's been done for children. And so I think that's just ingrained in us. You know, we just see it that way. And that's a really hard thing to break out of. And that's one thing we wanted to try and do with this film. And we're not going to get there with one film. It's going to take time. It's going to take you guys to eventually help us.
You're screwed.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But I think it's important that people don't know how much animation is loved. I really think people see a lot of movies and see the that's behind them, but people love the purity animation can have. And the thing is, what is behind is cinema, animated cinema. TV already made a leap. You have Adventure Time, Over the Garden Wall, Rick and Morty. You have a lot of, already many things have explored depth and madness and all that, but the people, the more the money, the more conservative they are. And unfortunately, it's harder to do it on feature animation, but only when it's trying to be commercial. Because here's the horrible truth. They are not making movies for children. They're making them for moms and pops, for the worst type of parents that helicopter over their children's existence and think that the solution is to guard them from anything except a black and white vision of the world. So that's the truth, is the parents that they make the movies for. And that's the barrier that needs to be broken. This is a step, but there needs to be many other steps. If you watch every movie that was nominated this year and many that were not nominated, people are trying really new stuff. Really, most of the movies are trying Marcel the Shell or Turning Red or Puss in Boots. They really are trying different tones, different things. When I was in DreamWorks for 8 years, and through the 8 years, they said I was the harbinger of death. Because if they ask me about anything, I say, kill it. Like How to Train Your Dragon, Din Djalan, that directed that movie, said, what do I do with the father? I said, kill him. Kill him. Then the movie means something. And the owner of the company called me and said, could you cool it with the killing?
You were a mentee of Dick Smith, the legendary makeup artist and effects
Who asked
maker.
that?
Sorry, Lily May?
You know Dick Smith, I'm so happy.
Was there anything that he said or taught you specifically that you still take with you on a daily basis as a filmmaker?
Everything. Look, I think that as you go through life, you get many fathers and many brothers and many mothers and many sisters. You construct a family or strange cousins, you know. Dick Smith was one of the fathers that I found in the world, and he was a benign father. This guy, how many of you know who Dick Smith is? All right, Dick Smith won the Oscar for Amadeus, makeup effects. He revolutionized makeup effects, and when I was going to create my company, I was gonna create my company so I could do my first movie because no one made makeup effects or animation in Mexico. So I said, okay, I'll build an entire company and learn to make them, and I'll make them and then I'll close it. So I wrote to him and I sent him my sculptures. He answered every letter anyone wrote to him ever. He answered personally. I'm a kid from Mexico. I go and visit him. He picks me up at the train station. He shows me his lab. He takes me to lunch. And he puts me back on the train and sends me back. And he was like that with everything. He was super tough. He never liked, his first letter accepting me said, there are far more talented people that need this course, but nobody needs it as much as you. Because otherwise you won't make your movie. And in my first movie, all the effects are done by us. I sculpted, I painted, other people under me sculpted and painted, applied the makeup, blah, blah, blah. So he became a mentor. And what he taught me is break every problem into pieces. And he said, when you direct, it's no different than when you're doing the illusion. If a knife is gonna go in, is it real knife, artificial chest? Or is it real chest, artificial knife? What is the cut point? Where do you put the blood? That's just a simple effect, right? But that's the way you break a scene. You say, okay, I want the audience to be scared. Do I show this or not show this? When do I show it? How do I show it? Do I push with a dolly? Do I just follow and it appears? So you break everything that you're trying to construct audiovisually into pieces. That I carry from him. And he is, I have a statue of him at my house, his face, his head, 6 feet tall. And every day I come in and I say, hi, hey Dick. And it was incredibly moving the way he was. And I tell you, for me, every time I come to talk to a place where there are young people, I would love to answer. I would love to stay here, have milk and cookies for a week and just talk. Although candy in England is weird. Really, it's the only country with the weirdest candy. I don't know if I can take a week, but that's Dick Smith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A question from Freya. So how do you go about the process of bringing your vision to a script and ensuring it doesn't get lost or whittled down as more people come in and as the production process progresses?
Well, the beauty of working with someone like Guillermo is that he can say no to studios. And he promised us right from the beginning of this, he said, there'll be no notes, there'll be no screenings, and that really gives you a safe space to work in. And then, you know, for ourselves, I think you compare every single moment to the truth. And if it's the truth, great. If it's not, then don't do it. So that was sort of our approach?
What you do is, I think directing is three things. One of them is you make everybody feel as passionate and own the movie as much as you do. If you ask anyone in a movie, they made it. Everybody made it. It's not just one guy's movie or one director's movies. Everybody made it, and they have to feel that. And that is by stimulating and praising and seeing. The tragedy in this world is that we are not seen and we're not heard. We are invisible. If you make someone feel seen and listened, they do much better work than if you don't. So directing is listening and seeing, number one, to create that emotion. The second one is the movie talks to you, and then you talk to everybody else. It's not about ego, it's about you going, no, because of this. When we had a disagreement, either of us, the other one needed to prove that is what the movie needed. We would say no because of this or yes because of that. And I think that's it. The other one is people need to feel that you know exactly what you want. It's not enough for you to know it. You need to articulate it, which makes it difficult for some directors are super shy, or they don't know how to express it until they see it. And some of them are really good directors. The myth of the director that knows everything, some only know it when they see it. So they go and do 40, 50, 60 takes, and then they go, that one. But they couldn't, but ideally you want to be able to express it. And you always give the movie what it needs to be truthful, not real, truthful. Meaning the movie will create its own universe. And you enforce that. You have to, the second or the first most powerful word in any language is no. And you are frontal, quick, direct. As a director, you got to say no right away. You cannot be a nice guy. You can say no nicely, but you cannot think, oh, what are they going to think? Everybody will deal with it. You have to be direct. And I'll tell you a little story. When we were doing the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth, you know that figure? The guy with the eyes on the hands? We had sculpted a beautiful face for that, and a sculptor called Argent Toulton had spent weeks sculpting that face. And I say, well, let's wipe it out. Let's just leave the holes for the nose, but let's make it blank and put the eyes on the hands. And they were so angry, but I knew the movie wanted that. It needed that creature to not be human. So they stayed angry with me for more than a year or two. But that's how you communicate it. You have to have certainty. And the final tool that I will give you today, which is very useful for that, if you don't know the answer, say it. Say, I don't know what we're going to do here. What do you think? I feel this way. You being vulnerable is not a defect. It's what makes collaboration work. You can say, I don't know, let's talk about it. And that gives you strength. The worst thing you can do is pretend that you know and not know. So is that answers your question?
Yeah.
Great, thank you, because it's pretty long.
One thing that we do here is weekly we show films to the students so they can enrich sort of their palette and their vocabulary. What films would you suggest we screen the students here? Classic films that any filmmaker must have
How many
seen.
of you really like classic films? Really? Don't try to pretend that you do. You do, huh? All right. I think that there are many, many, many forms of cinema. There's some that is audiovisual and narrates audiovisually, and others that are more naturalistic. So the construction is through character and dialogue, and trying to have the technique be not intrusive. So it depends. Cinema is a banquet. There is not such a thing as only one type of good film. If you're trying to learn character construction and dialogue, I would recommend one type of movie. If you want to learn almost the syntax of audiovisual filmmaking, I would recommend another. But what I would say is, you watch a movie the first time, but you don't read it until the second or third viewing. Really. It's the first time you see a movie is a blind date. Second one is a date. Third one, you're exclusive. Fourth one, you're now marrying. And fifth one, you're in your pajamas with the movie. So you really have to have that familiarity with movies. If you are making them, you cannot just watch them. Every time I watch a movie, when I see it the first time, unless it's really bad, I don't think about technique. But if it's really, really good, then I see a certain effect. I go, how did that happen? Like, Joe Pesci in Goodfellas entering the room, realizing that it's empty, and he goes, oh no, bam, they blow his head. Look at how many cuts are there. Look at the gun resting there, and then when blood comes out of his head is another cut. Or you can say, how did The Godfather, some of the best lines of The Godfather are on the face of the character listening to them, not the character saying them. So take any piece of film you want or an entire film and think about it like that. How did this happen? How did he do it? One guy that I deconstruct, there's a filmmaker called John Schlesinger. He's incredibly good at staging. Raise your hand, you know what staging is. All right, perfect. He's great at staging, incredible. Spielberg has 3-minute takes that are beautiful to dissect where he doesn't cut. He does fabulous masters. When you see a movie that has a great master and coverage, try to watch it and say, this is the master, the master, the master. He cut, call it shot B, and then he comes back to the master, see how he goes back to the master, et cetera, et cetera. Catherine Bigelow stages action beautifully. So find your favorites, the ones that you like, not the ones they tell you should like, because it's impossible. It's like eating broccoli if you don't like it. You have to like it to dissect it, but dissect it.
Can I ask you sort of parting words of advice for those 16 to 18-year-olds who are going to embark on a career and a life as filmmakers?
Well, I would just say, tell your story. Start there. Don't try and tell somebody else's story. You're going to have plenty of time to tell other people's story later on. But now is a time to figure out what your story is and what your point of view is, because you're going to keep working in this business because people will look at you and go, they've got a point of view. I mean, particularly for a director.
Let's kill them.
Let's kill them, yes. They want to exploit you, and that's fantastic. As long as they come with enough money, it's a good thing. But it's a cliche, but be true to yourself. Like the temptation is maybe that's God interrupting me. The temptation is to try and please others right away, or do something that you think, oh, well, this is what it should be. And it's like, no, I would really try and trust your own instincts for a while.
How hard do you feel it is for you to do what you like to do? Raise your hand if it's hard. Yeah. Well, it is what happens. And it is truly, a virtue is a defect that has not been repeated until it's good. What makes you look defective or inept or inexperienced is what will make you really good in the future. I guarantee you that. I grew up in a country and in a little city where everybody laughed incessantly about the fact that I wanted to make fantasy movies and horror movies and creature movies and movies that were fables or fairy tales. Impossible. And it's really important that you know this. the thing that people point at and say you're doing wrong is the thing that you will be doing right as you hone your capacity to articulate it. Because the emotion you feel is not wrong. It cannot be wrong. It's just how you manage to express it. How do you put it in elements of audio and visual things that you can make other people go, that's how they feel. You know, that's the important thing. Every single movie I've made, even the most commercial ones, have elements of biography that speaks very, very intimately about me and my father or me and my kids. Pinocchio is an articulation of who I was as a son and how I grew up as a father. It affects me. That's what Mark means when tell your story. It can be Pinocchio, but it's your story. And the style of it and how the style conveys an emotion can only be honed in time. So be prepared to f up again and again. And that's good, because that tells you you're having freedom. You're making your mistakes. Better make your mistakes than somebody else's things that are right. You know? It's really important. And there are two things that are torture machines in the history of mankind. Romance, and it tortures our minds 24/7. And the other one is success. And you will always try to torture yourself, and your family will try really hard to torture you with success. And success is nothing more than being able to make your own mistakes in your own way. And eventually, if you repeat them enough and you get to know your defects intimately, they become style. I can prove it with most every filmmaker that ever lived. I can prove it with the best filmmakers that ever lived. I can prove it with Kubrick. I can prove it with Hitchcock. I can articulate it for you. If you see the first movies that Kubrick did, they are stiff, artificial, weird, stilted. The dialogue is completely unnatural. And you can say the same things about his last movies, which are masterpieces. The same adjectives can be applied to his last movies, but in a virtuosity way. So what he did is take everything that he didn't know well and know those defects well enough that he turned them into virtues. So this is the one. Final thing I would say is this is an evolutionary profession. It's brutal, incessantly disappointing, and really hard to work through. And it takes care of, you have to have the fragility of a poet and the endurance of a boxer, because that's what takes care of it. Of how many are we here? How many? 200?
300.
300. Out of this 300, 100 will work on audiovisual industry. Not everybody here. I guarantee you that. This is horrible, but it wakes you up into being who you are. Out of those 100 and so, only 20 will command an enterprise, being directing, writing, producing. And out of those, 2 or 3 will get to have the things seen in the world. That is the statistic. Now, that could be scary, or it can be what I hope it is, which is, let's do it. And that's the only thing, but you know to know that the world is not happy. We come from a generation where they told us, everything is possible if you dream. It isn't. And if you build it, they will come, or not. You know, it's really hard, but your passion, if you have the passion and the endurance, you get there. Passion is one thing, fragility, endurance is being tough as hell. So there you have it. I bless you and your weird candy. Thank you very much.